first thing you want to do is first sign up, set up an account with your email, get to that point. At that point, you're going to be here. This is my GitHub account for the Coding Sensei. See, I have 2 repositories here. Maybe I should. So like I said, I talk about frameworks. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do things from the command line. There were a few companies I worked for that we use something like Tower. It's called Tower. There's also GitHub Desktop, something that offers you kind of a GUI, a user interface, a graphical user interface, so that you can just drag and drop files and folders into your GitHub, and you can click buttons and it will show you the branches merging and all that kind of stuff. Well, here's the good news. If you're just an individual person, pushing your projects to GitHub and things like that, it's less important, just because you're not merging any branches. You're always going to be on the main branch, and you just need to know a few different commands to to push your code up, and that's really it. I mean, when you're on a team, though, if you have a tool, a user interface, it makes it better to see what your other team members are doing and things like that. But even then, I still used the command line because why not? It's easier, and I can explain that as we go along. But I'm showing you the terminal, the command line, and I really think it's the easiest way to go. So yeah, let's jump right in. So as you can see here, this shows your work, what you've been doing. I haven't been pushing too much stuff to this particular GitHub, so there's only a few green dots here, but overall it kind of shows like some projects. And then the cool thing is too, like, let's say like you're interviewing, you're like, okay, employer, here's my here's my work samples, and this is what it does, and here's the readme, and here's the here's the features of it and stuff like that, right? And this is a little game I made in Java with Java Swing, I believe. So pretty cool stuff, right? So I made this little game here, but yeah, you can show people. And then if it's a public repository, at the beginning of this video I was mentioning that I had access to private repositories. Public repositories are repos that other people can fork, other people can use. So potentially, the hiring team will pull down your project and mess around with it a little bit, see if it works, things like that. So that's kind of the power of having this kind of thing. So anyway, so let me show you how we would create a project here. So it looks like I'm not signed in, so I'm just gonna sign in real quick here. And okay, so I would click new repository, and we're just going to call this one example. And description, so you see public or private, I can choose which one I want to use. And I'm going to click create repository. It's really that simple. Now we're using HTTPS. I would advise that you get a system, and I'll show you how we can just copy a repository onto our local folder. I'll copy one of these down, but so you see there's HTTPS or SSH. A lot of times SSH is a little too complicated to mess with on personal projects. It's going to be something saved for professional environments. Maybe even if you're in a computer science program, you're going to mess around with SSH. HTTPS is fine. I wouldn't. So as you see, look, we have the GitHub desktop option. Better just to learn it this way. So we have a little URL. So these, and it gives us a list of commands that we would put into our project folder to connect it. All right. So this is not going to go away until we enter those commands. So the first one, I skipped this one, this README. I don't add the README initially because the project's not set up yet. So, but the first command would be git init, which is git initialize. So it's the same thing as if we were doing an npm init. It's an initialize. So as you can see in Visual Studio Code, I can just go to terminal, hit new terminal, and from in here, you can see that I'm in my example folder, which is my my example folder. So I will type in git init. Okay, and as you see, it says using master as the name for the initial branch. So initially, the branch I'm on, the main branch, is the master branch. Okay, it just by default did it that way. Now it says git add.readme. So we didn't make the readme. So what I would do is git add dot. That means we're gonna add all the files that we have before we commit them. So we're adding them to the branch. Dot is like all the files. The reason why it was specific with readme is because that would be the file that we had made, but we're doing all the files. And even if we did make the readme, we still would do git add. And usually, professionally, I would just use git add. You know, it's just cleaner that way. So git add dot, and then we can just copy this, since that doesn't really change. So it's going to be called the first commit. And so the colors changed, which means that we committed it to the branch. And you know, we're just going to rename the branch. This is what this is for. It's called master, but we can rename it right here to main. So if you notice down here, it's master, right? But when I hit this, and then I hit enter, it changes it to main. Okay, so it's main now. And then here you see it says git remote at origin. It's the same URL as right here. Okay, I'm just gonna put that in, hit enter, and last but not least, this is going to send the code so usually this isn't the well, that's interesting. I forgot my password, so let's try it again. So we're gonna push again. Type allow. Okay, so that was weird. So I guess that was the case. So here's what happened there. I did forget my password, but Visual Studio Code has a connection. It has a built-in connection to GitHub. So I can be signed in to GitHub, and I was signed out because I was using it for other reasons here. But as you can see right here on the side, this is the little GitHub control. So it shows us, so it's connected to our code editor. Okay, now I don't really mess around too much with the code editor, because once again, it's just another interface. So it's whatever you're comfortable with. Personally, I don't necessarily need to see it because I'm putting in the right commands and I can read this here. So yeah, it was successful, and the way I can tell it's successful is this command here called git status. Okay. If there's any code files that weren't part of it, it would have a bunch of red and it would say need to commit, need to do this. But as you can see, it says on branch main, your branch is up to date. Nothing to commit, working tree clean. Okay? So that means everything is cool. Now what I'm going to do here is hit refresh, because we ran all these commands, and it's going to show me my repository. Okay? So now I have the new repository. So all I did was create a new repository. I connected it to this project, and now when I change a file, so let's say I come here and let's say I'm working on my project, do, and I create a new section, and we'll just call it GitHub, just because, whatever. So I'm adding some stuff to it, you know, and you can see as I hit enter, we had a new little pop-up here, my source control. Changes, not committed yet. So, and in the same way, if I hit get status, you can see now, modified. It shows you the file I modified, index.html. It'd be the same thing with my CSS, because the GitHub repository is inside the example folder. It's not in an individual file. So that means that all the files inside that folder are being watched now. So whatever changes I make, you know, it's gonna work. So as you can see, I still have these two. And you know what? We're just gonna make a new file, and we're gonna call this index.js. And I'm not even gonna put anything in it. But you can see here, changes. And I'm gonna hit get status. See, untracked files, changes not staged for commits, but we're gonna change all that. We're gonna do git add dots, git commits. I don't know. I think we still have to put the M. Second commit. Now, usually you put something descriptive here. You would say, you don't have to put second commit. You could just put, like in a work environment, you would say, added a JS file, made a change to section, you know, color, whatever. And then from here, you see we noticed before we put all those steps, but now all we have to do is git push origin main, because all we're doing is pushing the files up, and we're on the main branch. We're not on the master branch anymore. Well, we changed the name, so as you can see, git status, everything's cool. And we come back up here, we do a refresh, and we have our file right here, okay? And when I go to my, now if we added a readme, if I'm not mistaken, so I'm just going to do commit changes. So I'm going to commit directly to the main branch. So the readme file is on my GitHub here, but it's not on my local computer, right? Because we haven't ran any commands. So in this case, see, it's not going to show anything because it's showing my local. So in this case, I would do what's called a git pull. So I would say git pull. And as you can see, we now have that file right here on my local. It said readme. Okay. Git status. Everything's cool. So that's how I just showed you all the commands that we use in a professional environment. I do git add dot, add all the files, git commit, the description of the changes I made, git push origin main. If you didn't change the name to main, then it would just be git origin master. And then if there were, since we added the readme, we would do a git pull. And that's the same way if someone else made a change to your project. Now, there's something else I want to show you, because when you're a developer, we don't download zip files anymore. There was even a developer I knew who there's this package manager for Mac called Homebrew. So he wouldn't even download, like you download something, you're downloading Mozilla Firefox, right? You're downloading it, you say download, you get the, on a Mac you get the .dmg, you drag into your applications, and then you install it. He would install everything through Homebrew, so it's all managed inside the package manager. Now, I'm not gonna be that hardcore about it. That's just what he liked to do. I don't mind downloading stuff like that, but when we're talking about, let's say I wanted this repository, right? Let's say this space game. I want this repository. It's a public repository. I have access to it. And let's say I want to add it into, I want to add it onto my computer, right? You can do this with any public repository. So let's say I want to add it, let's just say, you know what? Just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna add it into this folder here, just because I can just delete it. It's not. This is like an example folder. But what we're not gonna do is we're not gonna download the zip. We don't do that anymore. We're players now. We do it the real way. And you see, we have so SSH requires public keys, and I'll show that. GitHub CLI. So you don't need the CLI. You don't need the GitHub desktop. All you need to do, you ready for this, guys? You copy the clipboard. You copy it, right? Copy it. You go, and then look, we can hit clear. It's gonna clean it up. So all we do, guys, we do git clone, Command V to paste it, and I'm gonna hit enter, and it's gonna create the folder right inside my example folder, because that's where I'm in, my example folder. Now if you can make a projects folder, and then inside your projects folder you can do this, but I'm not trying to go into all my files on this this live video here. So watch, look, I'm gonna hit git clone, and look, guys, it downloaded the whole thing right inside my example folder. It just does it just like that. And the name of the folder is the name of the repository. Okay. And then you could work with it, and then you could, if you got to do a npm install, you got to do what you got to do. And then while we're here, since we're on the subject, when we start getting into more complicated projects, there's certain things we don't want on GitHub. Okay, we don't want the node modules folder. We don't want our API keys. We don't want these things that people can use to exploit our systems. This is super common. Hackers will look for your GitHub, see your projects, see a junior developer pushing up his API keys. They'll see him pushing up stuff that doesn't need to be pushed up into the GitHub for the public. And plus, the node modules folder is a big one. That's a rookie mistake. You do not want to push that folder up. Node modules comes when you run an npm in it. You start working with the JavaScript. When you use the npm package manager, because it's such a huge folder that you do not want to push it up to the GitHub. You want to keep it on your local system. Okay. I know this because I made these mistakes, guys. I didn't know I was making them, but you figure it out, right? So someone's gonna tell you. So, as you can see, there's a certain syntax here where we can just put that in. Now, we can have a git ignore on our local folder, as you can see right here. All we gotta do is just hit new file, .git ignore, and start putting in what we gotta put in. You can look it up, what to put in. We can also put a git ignore on our globally. So globally we can have rules, but basically what I want you to keep in mind is to have the git ignore on your folder. Whatever you don't want pushed up, keep the git ignore, okay? And put the file you don't want to push up. Remember, don't push up stuff you don't want to push up. And see, from here, because I cloned it, I have access to the commands now. So, well, in this case, it's a part of my my example GitHub branch. Okay, the main branch. But watch, if I went change directory into the space game, into what I just downloaded, it has its own GitHub branch. So keep that in mind, that and usually this kind of thing, I understand it, but usually this thing wouldn't happen, because usually I'm just showing you this for an example, just to show you that when we do a git clone with the URL, that the space game, the parent directory, it's gonna be connected already to this through this branch, and you can see the name of the branch right here. This one's also called main. It's just the main for this particular folder. And we have the main for the example folder. It just happened to be that we put another GitHub main branch inside a folder directory that has a GitHub main branch, so it becomes a part of that parent, the example folder branch. And I hope I'm not confusing you. I mean, but I'm saying that if let's say we didn't have the example branch, let's say we just had let's just say we had maybe I should have, well, no, it's because it's gonna still be an example. But so if you had like a projects folder, you did git clone space game, git clone the other game, they would all be separate main branches if you named them that, connected to that specific project, still under the folder that it's in. But if you didn't connect the projects to a GitHub repository, then it wouldn't be a part of a GitHub branch. You understand what I'm saying? It's just a local folder. So yeah, I mean, that's just how we roll. That's how we do it. And I hope this video was informative to you. And yeah, anyways, we'll talk soon. So have a good one.